The question of how many children American adults ideally want in their families isn't just a number. It's a reflection of changing social, economic, and cultural realities. But here's where it gets controversial. Even though most Americans say that having 2 to 3 kids is the perfect family size, actual birth rates continue to fall well below that ideal. Why is that, and what does it tell us about today's society? A recent Gallup poll sheds light on the average ideal family size in the United States, revealing that people commonly envision families with about 2.7 children. This survey, conducted over a 2-week period in July 2023 through phone interviews with 1,002 respondents, found that over 80% favor having at least 2 children. Specifically, 40% chose 2 children as ideal, 27% preferred 3, and 11% wanted 4. Very few, just 2%, favored having no children at all, while 4% leaned toward either 1 child or 5 or more kids. So what's causing this noticeable gap between what people want and what actually happens? The U.S. birth rate has been steadily dropping, now standing at a record low of 1.6 births per woman, well beneath the 2.1 children per woman needed to maintain the population without immigration. Megan Brennan from Gallup News points out that this discrepancy between ideal family size and real fertility rates has grown wider in recent decades, suggesting it's not simply a matter of people wanting fewer children, but more about real-world challenges preventing them from meeting their desired family size. Historically, Gallup first asked about ideal family size in 1936, when the average ideal was 3.6 children. That number stayed above 3 well into the early 1970s, after which it settled between 2 and 3 children. Researchers speculate that earlier declines after the 1960s could have been partly influenced by growing concerns about overpopulation following publications like The Population Bomb. But today's trends seem to be driven by very different forces. The Gallup report highlights several probable reasons why people have fewer children than they say they want. Skyrocketing costs of housing, childcare, healthcare, and higher education all weigh heavily on family decisions. In addition, trends like delaying marriage and parenthood, increased use of birth control, and a decline in religious observance play significant roles. Lyman Stone, a noted demographer, has emphasized that waiting longer to start a family can reduce the likelihood of having as many children as initially desired, as biological and social factors limit eventual family size. An interesting twist to this story is that finding the right partner is reportedly taking longer, which can push back timelines for having children. A 2022 study highlighted by the Deseret News, conducted jointly by the Wheatley Institute at Brigham Young University and the Institute for Family Studies, found that the most cited reason couples didn't reach their fertility goals was still searching for a suitable spouse or partner. Looking at the numbers over time, Americans' preference for larger families, 3 or more children, declined steadily through the economic recessions of the 1970s and 1980s. Since then, the average ideal family size has fluctuated between 2.4 and 2.7 children, stabilizing at 2.7 in the most recent polls from 2018, 2023, and now. But the idea of the ideal family size is not uniform across the population. The Gallup poll reveals some fascinating differences by demographics. While men and women remain nearly equal in their preference for 1 or 2 children, about 44%, men are significantly more inclined to want 3 or more children, 48%, compared to women, 37%. Religion plays a major role, too. Those who attend religious services weekly overwhelmingly prefer larger families, with 53% wanting at least 3 kids, whereas those attending less than monthly favor smaller families, with 51% choosing 1 or 2 children. Political views also seem to influence family size preferences. Democrats tend to prefer smaller families, with over half opting for 1 or 2 children. Contrarily, half of Republicans say 3 or more children is ideal, and independents fall somewhere in between with an even split. Furthermore, people of color are generally more inclined than white Americans to desire larger families. When looking at age groups, young adults aged 18 to 29 are more likely to prefer smaller families, as are adults over 65, albeit to a lesser degree. Adults between 30 and 64 show little difference in their family size preferences. These shifting attitudes come as the actual number of births in the U.S. continues to decline, confirmed by data from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC. More than half of the states, plus Washington, D.C., saw drops in fertility rates from 2021 to 2022. Even regions historically known for large families, like the Intermountain West, experienced sharp decreases. For example, Utah faced the largest decline at 3.4%, and D.C. had the greatest percentage drop nationally at 7.2%. Interestingly, some states like Texas and Delaware bucked the trend with slight increases. This trend has become a concern for policymakers. Declining birth rates pose complex challenges for societies, including an aging population, economic slowdown, and rising inequality. The Trump administration publicly explored options like child allowances, lump sum payments for families, and tax incentives aimed at encouraging higher birth rates. Other countries have experimented with similar policies, though results have often been mixed or limited. Demographer Emily Harris from the Kem C. Gardner Institute highlights that understanding the intentions behind declining fertility is crucial. Are people choosing to have fewer children, postponing parenthood, or feeling financially unable to expand their families? Pinpointing the real reasons could help guide policies and support systems tailored to different age groups. For example, younger adults may benefit from affordable childcare and housing assistance, while older adults rely on the contributions of the working-age population through social programs like Social Security and Medicare. She stresses the need for more detailed research and surveys to untangle these pinch points in fertility intentions. Only by understanding the subtle, complex reasons behind birth rate declines can society meaningfully address or even reverse these trends. So, while most Americans still dream of a family with 2 or 3 children, their lived realities often tell a different story. Is this gap between desire and reality simply an economic issue to be solved? Or does it signal deeper shifts in social values and family structures? What do you think? Will incentives and policies truly encourage more births, or are we witnessing an irreversible change in how future generations view family? Share your thoughts and join the conversation.